Welcome to another episode of First Step, where we have industry professionals, leaders in their fields, share with us the steps they took to get them to where they are today. And today we have a special guest with us, a gentleman who has been sharing or experiencing in many facets from his realm in security, and now developing and diversifying into sharing, and also almost, I want to say almost in the realm of becoming a motivational speaker. But I guess he would shed a little more light on that with us. We have today a brother who has established himself as probably the go-to service when it comes to security at events and special events, occasions and whatnot. And now he has taken the time to meet with me. You know, we have also done business together, and he has taken the time now to share with us today some of his journey. We have with us entrepreneur, family man, motivational speaker. I get my morning get up and go from this brother. We have Mr. Jason Charles. How you doing, my brother?
Thank you, Arion. I am good, thank you. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome.
I just want to recognize this podcast series that you're running. I mean, I really want to take this time to congratulate this venture. It was long in making. I'm glad to see that you've decided to go with it and open a platform for persons to share their journey and their story. Sometimes there are lots of persons that have their journey and story that is unheard. And may have some giveaways that, sometimes you just want a forum to let persons know what else is going on, and when you see persons operating as to how they got from point A to point B.
Exactly. Jason, I want to start by getting a little insight from you in terms of how did life unfold itself to get you to becoming the individual, not necessarily the individual as the man, but we want to start off in the realm of business first, and you being able to establish yourself and your business as the go-to provider, in terms of security, advanced protection services. How were you able to go about this?
Primarily, I started the industry as a police officer. Mm-hmm. I was with Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for 5 years, 1996 to 2001. At which time I made a departure and I went across the Turks and Caicos Islands. I spent about 2.5 years there, just experiencing a different policing practice to see where we were, to do a comparison. When I came back, I was dating my girlfriend, who is now my wife, of 19 years now. And her mom said to me, she said, "You'll be able to provide for my daughter. We already had a son. We weren't married." Right. And I said, where do I go? Coming back to Trinidad and Tobago. Just coming off of the police service. Not sure what is next. Where do I go to? And a friend of mine said, well, you have this private security. You could start, I could give you in as a private security. I said, private security. I said, from police to security, you say. Right. I said, how will it go look? How will it look? It will look good. Yeah, it is going to step down. Mm-hmm. And but at the time, I had to provide for my family. And I walked into the opportunity. And not too long after, while being there, I had a birthday party for a son of mine, my first son. And a friend of mine said, "What you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing a security bar store in Port Esprit." She said, "But you, Jason, you have all that is required to do much more." I said, "Well, I'm just trying to get a start." She said, "I'll make a phone call. I'll create an opportunity for you to possibly get while it might be along the same field, I will give you a better platform." And I was offered an interview fast forward to First Citizens Bank, where at that time, they now introduced psychometric. Now, psychometric was new at the time. So right. I like, what is this psychometric thing? Mm-hmm. The guy said, well, you see, people could talk a good talk, but it kind of is a test that really sees what your core fabric is made of, kind of thing, where your values are. Mm-hmm. He said, so far, nobody has passed. Nobody was successful. He said about 20 persons went ahead of you trying to get into security, and you're all about the fifth group going in.
Wow.
I said, well, no problem. I said, if nobody pass, if I'll pass. I said, because there are some things I know that never left, you know, my grandmother, and I had the opportunity to go with her grandmother and her great-grandmother. So we're talking about some good foundational values. So please, I said, so let's do this. Went into the exam, and then you have agree, strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. So, you know, you're watching like, okay, and you're trying to figure out if there's a right or wrong, but it's really based on your personal preference and where you see yourself. But I said, Jason, if you just agree or you just disagree, that means you have the propensity to be swayed further. So then, therefore, we're going to go to the extreme as either we strongly agree or we strongly disagree in these situations.
Right.
And so I believe, you know, everything strongly agree. My position, what I was objective to, I strongly disagree. And about a couple of years after, you know, the phone rang and they said, well, boy, you're the first one to crack it, you know. And I was like, you know, big thing. And we laugh at us, my wife and I, you know, all excited. Right. From there, I went to First Citizen, spent a little time. And then I went into, second child on the way, you know, trying to make ends meet. And my wife was always trying and felt I had more to give. So she was looking for opportunities. And there was an ad at the U.S. Embassy at the time for security officer. I said to my wife, I said, not leaving the bank as a security where I wear in plain clothes, I doing investigations. That time, the skimming had just started to rise in Trinidad. And First Citizen Bank was getting relics with some skimming. So we had some opportunity to go undercover, you know, to work some things and to help crack and bring some things to justice. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm leaving the bank to go and stand up outside in front of the embassy in the hot sun to wave cars on, you know. She said, no, go and give it a try. Right. Got to the interview, lo and behold, they were setting up a executive protection, a bodyguard unit for the ambassador, Dr. Royal Austin. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, this is something I could definitely do. And we got through, I was successful, went through the full training. And while at the embassy, not too long after, I was approached by one who I consider a revolutionary in the private security industry. Okay. And that person was at the time the owner of Executive Bodyguard Services Limited, Mr. Stafford.
Stafford.
Don't know him. You don't know, Stafford. Mm-hmm. Came to me and he said, I've been looking for somebody to handle a project. He said, on all roads and indications, that you're a good man. You know, you have a fair understanding, you have integrity, you know the ins and outs, and you have, as a former police, you have some connections. I said, but I work at the embassy. I said, you can really pay me. He said, call your price. I said, call my price to leave the U.S. Embassy. People dream to work at the U.S. Embassy. I mean, leave the U.S. Embassy. Right. And I threw a price out. Mm-hmm. And that we are talking about is 2003, 2004, 2005. Mm-hmm. And I threw out a price. And at the time...
You just threw this price out just to say...
No, I just a price. It's interesting. I called a figure, and I'll share with it. I called the figure. I said, you know what? At the time, back then, 2005, I said 15,000. Right. Wow. I said 15,000 vehicle, laptop, cell phone, you know, full words. Mm. He said, consider it done. I said, no, what's something in writing? You know, I want a contract. I'm not leaving because I'm not sure where we're going with this. Right. And long and short is he employed. We started the project. And I remember receiving that check, Arion. I remember receiving that check for 15,000 in 2006. Okay, it was 2006. It was 2006, really, because we started talking in 2005 and we closed at 2006. Right. Sorry, and I remember receiving a check for 15,000 without a bachelor's degree, without any form of degree, without necessarily being considered a manager. And at that time, that salary was way higher than persons who work in corporate.
Definitely.
That salary was unprecedented in the private security industry for someone to earn back then. And I got the check, and I was so fascinated. It was a Scotiabank check. Mm-hmm. I remember going home, and I asked my aunt, where I used to live, where I grew up, I said, can I get a key for the back room? Mm-hmm. She said, what it is? I said, there's something I want to just check in the back room. And I walked into that room, Arion, and on my wall, in my back room where I grew up as a little boy going to Trinity College, was a check I wrote myself when I was in Form 2, having been invited by a motivational speaker to write a check you would like to work for when you become an adult. was $15,000.
Wow.
I mean, it was emotional. It was emotional. I broke down in tears, and I was like, imagine at Form 2, I wrote a figure, not even understanding what I did. But the
and
power
not even having the
speaking,
foresight.
not even, not even understanding the power of speaking into life and giving something life. And it was the beginning of the journey. While there, I developed some good acronyms and some good skills. I started to work with some international companies, and I started to realize what was being done. Now, my passion and had awakened. I found my passion. I found my calling, because as a father and as a leader, you're called to protect and serve. I mean, regardless, while it might be the watchwords of the police service, that is what we do. We provide, we nurture, we protect, and we serve our family and those around us. That's right. And that passion evolved. Now, back then in 2006, the events was, a couple of schools had a thing going. It wasn't as it is now. And I remember driving around and seeing schools having their parties, and they were using their regular security provider with a regular uniform on. And I was like, this is not good looking. I mean, this is not the look people want. People come to a party. You don't want to see that regular uniform. Right. And I remember going to a friend and mentor of mine. I said, listen, I have an idea. I said we could, event security on the rise. I said, let's set up a company. Let's change how they look, how the uniform look, how we present people to the public. I said, because people want to feel that sense of security. I said, and they're not using the system and they're not working it as is intended. So back then, you only have security basically at the entrance when you reach. So what you have in mind? I said, I want a nice little polo. He said, polo. So people who use polo in security. So I said, that is the point, because it's a party, it's an event we go into. We're not going to regular work. So let's get a polo that it could breathe, it's casual. When people put it on, they feel good and present a nice little image. Because I was always a stickler for appearance and turnout. Right. Because I always believe people judge you and they assess you based on how you appear, how you present yourself, and how you speak. So some of the things I was always mindful of. And I remember he's like, who are we going to use? I was like, don't worry, man, go find people. And the very first guy that I approached to come work with us, because that time I said, no, I will approach my former school. I said, I will go to Trinity College. I'll probably get another one we can approach to offer the service. I said, you have at least 2 persons you could approach. He said, I will approach. And he said at the time, he'd approach bishops and mothers, juve. So we're trying to get some things who we could approach with the conversation. Right. He said, yes, we have at least 5-6 events. He said, where are we getting the results? I said, leave that up to me. There was a young man who, from my neighborhood in Santa Cruz, I saw him a couple of times. And I mean, well built, not somebody from on the block, not somebody really around. And I remember walking up to him. I said, let me ask you something. I said, what you do? He said, I work in Caribbean glass. I said, what is doing Caribbean glass? I mean, muscular, tone, real buff. He said, I cut glass. I said, there's too much muscles to cut glass. I said, that's something else for you to do. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to start a company. I said, I believe there's people like you I need to send that image. So what it consists of, I say, is access control. I say, we'll go through some formal training just to understand how it runs. And we will launch off. And I said, you have more like you? He said, 4 more of me. I said, well, we'll bring them. And the things, and it's from there we start to look at persons. And I say, you know what? Why not bring persons who are already in the industry, who may not be working, or persons who may have the flexibility and need to earn something extra? Right. Because at the end of the day, sometimes the end's not meeting, but you don't really want to go to an extreme that is not necessary to satisfy what has to happen. So we end up, on a drive, but out to add persons started to respond, a lot of persons who used to be private security. So you got persons without experience, and that was the start of Advanced Protection Services Limited. That's where the journey started. Having been in the corporate and dealing with corporate, I brought all the corporate international principles that was required to be successful and deliver. Now, while trying to enter, and I use the word enter, they say you have a security company, how do you enter the market? Because you have all the bigger players who have all their vehicles, all their branding. Exactly. And I use events as a footprint into security to enter the market, because I had to strategically enter where I'm going. There was no other way to come up against those who had more than me, who had better advertising and had budget to run a different program, who were already recognized. So I used it. And I remember every time I would, before an event, we'll tell the staff, you are the first and last interaction. customer service is on point. I say you can start the client's experience on a bad foot. And they could go to the party, have a wonderful time, or whatever the event, and they could be leaving, and you could turn that experience into a very sour one that is unpleasant. Mm-hmm. So always understand that you represent the promoter, and you are the first and last, the maker or the breaker of the event, as I would say. And basically, that has been our principle. Persons have to understand that when persons come into an event, you want to greet them, they want to be professional, you want to make sure persons are not treated with disrespect, and not because you're in a position of authority, you're condescending or you're instructing adults as though they're children. So we really had some principles that we still stand by in terms of customer service and how we treat with persons. And I think over a period of time, persons started to appreciate my professionalism. Mm-hmm. Now, along the way, you meet up with promoters and they want to tell you what the event should have, mm-hmm. what their budget is, and what much security they should have. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, I did project management. I did event management, but persons don't know that. Persons predominantly know Jason Charles as security. They don't know exactly. Jason for anything else. That's all they know him to do. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time having a discussion with a promoter. And I said, why don't we extend where we start to show a presence from? So persons coming to the event will feel comfortable knowing that, okay, there seems to have a presence along the way, because psychologically, persons need to feel comfortable coming to an event and leaving the event. And let's do it different. No one does what the budget could meet. I said, but let me tell you something. I said, respectfully, you are good with marketing and branding. That's your forte. I said, let's respect each other for who we are. I said, my forte is security. I could run, let's do a risk analysis. Let me break it down to you and let's start to talk and treat this event from a risk-based perspective. And while taken aback, he conceded and gave way. And I think because the event went so smoothly, he then recommended me to another person, because how this is. Everybody in the same circle, want to see what's happening. Mm-hmm. At that time, we came on with this yellow jersey. And persons had different comments based on the color I chose. My color has nothing to do with political party. Right. It's gold and yellow. And the reason why I want to make that disclaimer is because security is about visibility. Contrary to popular belief, people believe when you're all in black, you can't be seen, you can't see. That's not what you want. You want to be visible. You want the bandits to see you. Mm-hmm. You want persons who patronize in the event to see you. You want to be seen. You want them to know that they're going to security. You don't want to appear to somebody who is cladly dressed, casual in black, any old how, and purporting to be security. Right. So hence I chose a color too. So when I stand wherever I stand here and I look out, I can see my troops. I can see who's trying to hide because I always know where you are placed. So if I look in the corner and not seeing the yellow jersey where it's supposed to be, right, then we have an issue. Time for a supervisor to get to that spot, understand what is happening here. Exactly. So psychologically, that yellow is intended to be visible and to put every mind.
I just want to, do you know, it is scientifically proven that yellow is the first color that human eyes are drawn to? Did you know that when you chose the color?
After I found out, a friend of mine was telling me, and I didn't even realize, as I said, so since then, for me, things had a way of working itself or without I really accepting, because where I am today is not where I was many years ago, at least 24 years ago. So in terms of some things we took for granted, not realizing that there was always a hand, a higher being, basically directing the play and not recognizing for what it was, because we always want to take credit for ourselves for what things happen. Exactly. But it's not for us. The credit is not our own.
Not at all. I'm glad that you went there, because first I want to get a little idea of how was it and how much your grandmother and great grandmother growing up with such generations of influence on you. How much of an impact do you think that would have had on you as molding the character that you are today, and having such a disposition of order and and strong spirituality as well, which yet sometimes think the field doesn't marry so much. Security or policing seems to be an aggressive thing, and then you find such a strong spiritual connection. I want to know, how did your grandmother and your great-grandmother influence you in that aspect leading forward now?
Right. So you had my grandmother, my great-grandmother used to pray. And I remember as a little boy, every time I go to Mama, Mama prayed. Mama prayed, Mama prayed, Mama prayed, Mama prayed. I said, well, Mama, who you talking to? So she said, I'm talking to Papa God. I said, well, Mama, so you don't talk to nobody else, Mama? You don't take no time to talk to nobody else? And my grandmother also picked up a position of praying, and they would say in and out of season. Now, as a young man, you don't quite grasp the term in and out of season, you know. As young men, you pray for when you want something.
Exactly.
You're growing up and your parents tell you pray when you want something, you don't just keep praying.
Right.
But I want to also extend that further to just those two persons, because when I look back, I have been fortunate to have come into contact with some very, and I would say, influential people who have helped shape and add and strengthen the background of a strong moral value and of family life. You know, there's a friend of mine who I basically grew up with and would spend time with his family. Both his parents were teachers, you know, and so on a weekend when preparing for SC will come an entrance at the time, I would go down there for the weekend. So you watch what structure look like. They happen to have 3 boys. So you watch the order, you watch how strong the father was, you watch the role the mother played, and they were Christian people who would always encourage, you know, to be followed and to follow the commandments as far as possible. You know, you heard the word integrity back then, and you're not sure what integrity looks like because you're trying to find your way. When my wife and I got married, she too had about 3 or 4 families. You know, there is no, at that time we always say there's no real writing on how marriage will work.
Exactly.
You know, people, trial and error, everybody say make your own way, you have to do it your way, you have to find your space and your time. And very early, we started to have some problems. So there were some families we went to, and we always sought help, because we knew this commitment would require one that has longevity, and you need support and community. But what happens along the way, people sometimes let voices speak into their life and their relationships and situations that has no real credential, has no validation, nothing positive to uplift. So we were always mindful as to who we allow into the space, into the back of our minds, to have a voice and say. So these persons were always very spiritually grounded. They always encourage us to pray, you know, and try to lead us on a path as best as they could, you know. So you have that situation where, you know, there's a higher force, and you understand that there are laws, because the commandments speaks to laws, and there are laws and principles of which you should live by. And to touch on what you said, regardless of your profession, nothing speaks about violence. Nothing speaks to violence. It's just persons believe that there's a certain approach to deal with situations. And hence the reason from time to time, day to day in society, you have escalations, you have unwanted, unnecessary situations presenting themselves based on a level of ignorance and how people treat the situation. Because similarly with conflicts, you have to be able to de-escalate. By nature, some of us meet force with force. And while it is required and dependent on situations, as one may say, based on training, by and large, our thinking is what allows us to respond and behave a certain way, and how we feel about ourselves. Because it's difficult to outperform your self-esteem. However you see yourself, that's how you have, you know, and persons may not quite understand what I just said, but it's very difficult to outperform how you see yourself. If you have a very negative, low moral about yourself, then you walk and you behave that way. You people who speak negative into your life, you somewhat validate and confirm what person speaking to. So if somebody say you will turn out to be nothing, as a child, your parents, your teachers, your influencers talk about and always have nothing positive to say, you just automatically, subconsciously work towards proving what they say. Similarly, if somebody gives you a ceiling and says, you know, he's a very respectable, upstanding young man, you make every effort to live up to that positive affirmation that was placed on you. So whatever is said to you is where you go.
Yeah,
I didn't have a father figure. I grew up with strictly women. Mother was single, grandmother, great-grandmother. And I remember I use the word stumbled upon an uncle of mine. And when I say stumbled, because I didn't even know he was family. And he was one of the persons that really showed me what family and what family life could be and what it should be. And those other families that are extensions of my wife, they are all very family-oriented area, and they focus on family. And when I look at those homes right now today, how many years later, they have churned out positive, well-rounded men and women because of that placing family first, placing God at the head and family first. And it's something I wanted for myself, because we sometimes as people fail to realize that cycles require that we break cycles. But you know, your father used to drink, your father was at the bar, your father 3-4 women. So you know what? When that happens to me, that's hereditary. I inherit that. You know, that's just the thing. Don't expect nothing different from me. That's what my father was. That's what my father was. And we speak that kind of language that, you know, it's not necessarily so. Somebody has to check you, or you have to come to a point where, are you happy with your results? Are you happy with the results that you experience? And if you're not, then the only person to change the results is you, because they are your results. They are not anybody else's results. But you want to blame everybody else. You want to blame society, the economy, government, the system, your mother, your father. We blame everybody else and not owning the fact that if you're not happy with what is happening, then we have the power of choice. We were given choice. To actively do something and turn a different direction as to what we want to do next.
That's interesting. I think so. Just based on the conversation we're having so far, it's such a lovely one, Jason. I realize a trend. I realize that you have been, I want to say, almost a student to life then, and you've kind of remained relatively open to things that you may not be strong in, and letting what you, I guess, filtering as you go along what you need to filter out. But
you see, for me, Arion, I didn't come from a privileged environment. I didn't come from an entitled. I used to have to walk sometimes 2 miles for water to bathe. Wow. I used to bathe at a standpipe. When I finish at the standpipe, I now have to carry that pigtail bucket up for my grandmother and great-grandmother to use to cook or for them to bathe.
Full of water.
As boys going up the road, you're playing with the water and the bucket on your head, and you're playing. By the time I get home, half the bucket empty. I have to go back down because they're expecting a full bucket.
Right.
So from very early, discipline was being put into me without I even realizing that is what because remember, they're not as vocal. Your great-grandma, they are not as learned, but they are doing it systematically how they know it will put some positive values into you. Right. So I would have to go back down for the water. You know, so when and my time didn't have gate. So to do a degree in UWI, you have to have money. I didn't have money. My family couldn't afford to send me. So I had to choose a path that was on the merge, an industry that was on the climb, and I had to enter it early enough. My uncle I was referring to, when I was in the police service, he said to me, you could be a small fish in a big pond. Because he asked me why I joined the service. I said, I joined for change. I want to make a difference. I believe that is what I am called to. I believe leadership is something has always been placed on my life. When I go back to primary school, to secondary school, wherever I go, I've always been trusting that. And I'm able to get persons to, as I say, buy in and come along. So I said, I believe I wanna add change and add value. And he said, well, you could be a small fish in a big pond, or you could be a big fish in a small pond. And I said, Uncle, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you like this security thing. He said, but I'm not sure what a difference we could make as a police. He said, however, private security, if that's what you want, he said the police service cannot satisfy the security apparatus for the whole country. Wow. So it might be a time for you to start now as a young man. So by the time that industry evolves and come into being, you have positioned yourself as a big fish in a small pond. When I entered it, and I took that and I ran with it.
Right.
So when I started off, private security wasn't as big as it is now. So therefore I while establishing yourself, along the way, I realized there is a certification, CPP, Certified Protection Professional. It is a internationally board certified program that is almost as though it's the bachelor's degree in security. Not necessarily criminal justice, in security.
Right.
And a couple times I would have applied for different positions, or even you see positions advertised, and they're asking if you are CPP certified. So I recognize this is something I have to pursue. Now, it's an elusive accreditation. It seems simple. Persons who basically do security all their life, every day, they're encouraged to do it because it speaks to your professionalism, your understanding. It's a full degree program that basically when you're finished, you are now recognized internationally. So I went ahead and I attempted to do the program. Must have been about 7 years ago. Was not successful. And I went back at it. And I decided I'll do it on my own because I went through our academy. And I wasn't successful. I said I'll do it on my own. And I remember preparing for the exam. And I said, at this point, the only person who's stopping me from being successful is myself. I cannot use my past failure as a benchmark as to what will happen next. And at that point back then, 7 years ago, I started realizing, I really started to get in tune with how the power of the mind works. You see, because a lot of times we limit ourselves. We restrict our ability to achieve. The key, as I said earlier, the key is in our hands. We just sometimes even realize we're holding the key because of so much negative limiting beliefs that has been passed down from parents to teachers to influencers to friends and peers that you believe that this is what my life is. And a lot of people don't make that effort to live the life intentionally. So I decided that I would be very intentional as to how I correct some of the things I wasn't happy with. Because once I understood that I am responsible for the change I want to see, and I need to be the change I want to make, then I started to walk in the direction. Because I can't be preaching one thing. I can't be presenting myself and not being an exemplar in the area or the field that I want to speak to.
That's so true. And you find a lot of times people kind of come to terms with this, they accept the fate then. Boy, this is how God make me, this is how I is. My mother was so, my father was so, as you were saying before. And they just go along with the flow then, without trying to sometimes you actually had to hold your life by its reins and guide it.
And you say that, but and while you want to guide it, whoever, and I say whichever God you serve or whatever your faith, you have to include part of your spirituality because it is important. You see, for too long, and many of us try to do it on our own. I mean, there were some things I was struggling with that I was trying to fix on my own. And then while it would have a temporary fix, it keeps reoccurring itself because that's what life does for us. Until we have mastered a particular dilemma or predicament, it takes different shape. It takes a different form. It comes at a different time. And for you, it's like deja vu. I thought I closed this off. In your mind, you say, but I thought I dealt with it already. No, it didn't deal with it. It didn't deal with it. It present itself again. And for me, what happened was a year and a half ago. I'm into security. I mean, and I was not, as I said, I was not happy with how operations and the business is running. While I have a model that is working, I believe that there was more to do. I mean, for carnival time, when I'm on the road with the band that I provide security for, I have at least 450 people looking to me to get it right. So, and I'm like, I'm missing some things. I recognize a gap. There was a gap in my delivery and where I could go. And I needed to improve on what I would call my leadership lid, because there is a lid in leadership. If you're 8, then you can't get to 10. If you're 4, that means everybody beneath you is a 3 or 2 or 1, because you could only carry persons where you have been, and you could only pull them up as high as you have been. So having identified as I traveled through the corporate security that there are some things that needed to fix, I started looking. Because I'm never one to necessarily watch music videos too much and that kind of thing. I'm not knocking or saying anything for those who do. But I always look for learning because I always try to find things to uplift me, to encourage me. I always want to put positive thoughts into my mind. I'm a very optimistic person because I see the effect and I know of persons who believe it's doom and gloom. As you said, this is what life is. It's not going to change. You accept it. And day in, day out, when I drive through the neighborhood or neighborhoods, you see young men sitting on corners, doing nothing, and would want to see you on a Friday when you get paid. You want to drink a beer, they want something, they want $10 or $20. I'm like, but you have health, you have life, you have intelligence, you have all inside of you to go out and make a difference, and you just choose to just let it waste. So I couldn't quite get that. So I started on a journey, and John Maxwell, I remember a feed pop up on a John Maxwell Minute with Maxwell. So what's this Minute with Maxwell thing about? So I played a video. It was a message on strength. Right, nice. It was 1 minute long, enough to catch you and tease you. And that message on strength, he touched on looking inside, on fixing inside to be able to reveal and treat it outside. And the message touched me. So I started, every so often I'll pull up a video. And then I saw the opportunity, a flash came to become certified as a coach, trainer, speaker with John Maxwell Academy. I was like, this, I said, these things always on game, these people always want your money, and I'm not really ready for this. I'm not sure. Right. And, but I remember a day I was watching one of his videos, and his video froze on my phone screen. Froze for 2 days. John Maxwell face. I kid you not, Arion, was my profile pic without realizing. I mean, my wife and I trying to take this off. I said, listen, this is a conversation coming. This is coming straight to me. A blind man could see what's going on here. Right. This is for me to go back into this conversation and see what this is about. And I remember going in, we eventually got his face off, and I went and looked into how to become a certified coach, trainer, speaker with John Maxwell Academy. I remember when I saw the figure, it was one of those figures that will take you. You'll have to take a deep breath and a whole drink of water, I was like, wow, this is a spend. But I mean, what I've learned is that persons like myself who started, I would say, some of the disadvantage, the greatest gift we can do, or the greatest thing we can do, is invest in ourselves. And I had a family on the rise, and I need to invest in me so I could then invest in them, because I have 5 boys. And I have to make sure I churn out 5 God-fearing men who can now add value to those around them in society. Sometimes parents raise their children for themselves.
Very much so.
And I say that unapologetically. Parents sometimes raise their children for themselves. Parents try to live their missed passion through their children.
To the children, that's right.
But that's not what I wanted. I want to make sure that I could add value to those around. I could let my boys come out strong, confident, independent, and know that anything they want, they can. So I started to follow up, and I pursued on the program, the John Maxwell program. Now, last year, it was around March month.
So in our timeline, this you had your little inner workings a year and a half ago when you realized the system wasn't tying in so good. Something was missing, and you decided.
Something was missing.
So between that time and actually jumping on doing the course, within your phone freezing and your John Maxwell face watching here for the 2 days.
Watching me straight every morning, I guess.
How long this process was within you realized?
Right, and that's what I get in. So it would have been, I would have signed up December 2018, November 2018. November 2018. Now, there are 2 certifications, one in March and one in August. All right, so based on price, based on spend, because now, luckily, there was a payment program. So I was able to pay, I had the option to do a 6-month plan, which will allow me to then finish pay and be ready, because you have to finish the course, and based on full payment, you have access to all the material, all the trainings, all the live calls and teachings before you present and you go in person, because the certification then was a live in person where you have to go, you have to present a speech for treatments, you have to stand and speak to persons and different things like that. And so March was out because I couldn't make the payment by March. So I started doing because every time you make a payment, it opens up a level of access. You're able to get a little more material to work with. You're able to have access to different calls and different mentors. So, as you pay, you rose on level.
Right, again, right.
Around April 2019, I called one of my local mentor, and I said, listen, I wouldn't make it, She said, why? I said, I can't, I said, I don't have the money. I said, I don't have the money to travel because you have to pay your own hotel, you pay your own airfare. It's in Orlando, so there's a connecting flight. Spend, it's a spend. Right. It's quite an investment. She said, but Jason, why won't you? She said, but a way must be made, and you have to come. You have to come in August. You already missed March. I said, things are looking good financially, I said, and I think I'll put it off to 2020. And I smiled, because you know what happened in 2020.
Right.
I said, I'll put it off. She said, no, you can't. And I was talking to a friend of mine, you know, and because while I have my own private security company, I also manage a very significant player in the industry. Right. And I will not say who, but I manage a significant player.
Right.
So, and I remember receiving a phone call, and he said, listen, you have some leave inside, you know. You have about 50-something days leave, and your cargo and all, you know. I said, I have 50-something days leave. He said, yeah, you have 50-something days leave. He said, why don't sell the leave? I said, sell the leave? I said, I could sell my leave?
Right.
Arion, I remember doing a quick math. And by the time I sold 30 days, I was able to pay to cover the costs to go to the certification. And I say, yes, God, this is how the thing working. Fast forward pay, travel, doors open, land in Orlando, until the certification. While there, I sat at a table of 8 other persons. One of the guys who sat on my table was one of the security personnel that actually watched over Mr. Mandela while he was in prison. So I had the privilege of sitting with a guy who could have shared some stories about having looked after Mr. Mandela while he was in prison in South Africa. I had an Australian on the team. I had one from Zimbabwe on the team. You know, a couple of Americans, a very nice, diverse table. JMT 580 was our table number. Met a really nice guy, just came out. He had just suffered a separation. Wife took the 2 kids and left him. Broken guy, you know, and he still came. And every day I would kind of, you know, check in on him, give him a little support, kind of give him a shoulder, give him a prop, because he had his ups and downs. And I remember we started a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was the last day. And he said, Jason, you know, why you don't go to mentorship? I said, mentorship? Because that's the next level. I mean, you get certified, and to allow to give you ability to teach and access to even greater material and open up a different set of doors. There's mentorship level. I said, I can't afford mentorship. He said, yes, but you'll do well in it. And by that time, a lot of people started to up to mentorship level.
Okay.
He said, I'll pay half. He wrote a note, he said, I'll pay half. I said, if you pay half, I will have to miss my flight. I had to wash wares in this hotel for the next 6 months to pay the next half. I cannot afford to do mentorship. Right. It is not an equal. I say, if it's God will, it will work itself out. Right. And everybody's like, here's Jason, you'll do so well. This is for you, and we can see you going to the next level. And about 20 minutes later, he slid another note. He said, I will pay. Wow. I remember looking at the note. And I said, you serious? He said, yes, I will pay. He said, as at that time, we were coming to the end of the session. John C. Maxwell was on the stage wrapping up the program for the weekend.
Right.
And he said, I will pay. And my friend, when we were finished, we slid our chairs and he walked across. While he go to pay, the gentleman asked for his name. He said, no, it's not in mine, put it in his name. And I said, you know, what happened here? He said, the Holy Spirit spoke to me. And God said, to gift you. Now, the cost of mentorship converted is double digits going. That's all I would say, people. Like, the cost of mentorship is double digits. Yeah. And I said that to show that I recognize how he created a way for me to be able to go in the first place. Because, you see, sometimes we don't listen and we don't hear. God speaks to us. Our Creator speaks to us and gives us messages. Yeah. But sometimes we are so stubborn. Yeah. Sometimes we're so busy. We don't even really hear what he's saying. And there's a price to obedience. But you will only recognize that price after you have obeyed. If you understand what I say, had I not obeyed,
exactly.
Had I not submitted and looked itself up, I would have never known there was a gift on the other side. That's for me. Right, yeah. Because trust me, that gift has changed everything for me altogether. And that is why today, where you get nuggets, Arion, and I am on a drive to purposefully and intentionally add value to those around me, it's because of that gift I receive. You know, and I have to give back the knowledge and experience I have accumulated over the years. I have to share. That's what we're called to do. We are called to empower others. We are called to lift them. We are called to leave them feeling better than when they first come into our space.
Wow.
And a lot of us miss that. We miss that in life. We believe it's all about self and it's all about us. While I was granted the opportunity and God opened the way for it to be paid for, I now have to share. It's a gift to share. That's what life is. Life is a gift to share.
That's amazing. God, I'm gonna pause raise on that story. That was a good one. That's a good one. That's quality. Wow.
For real.
Because no, a lot of times, and I liked how you brought that back, because even your message this morning, because I get them every day. Well, the days that you send them, you kind of take a little break on the weekend and you hit them again.
Yeah. You have to rejuvenate.
Yeah, that's good. You know, and the message, the note you sent this morning was exactly along this line. You might plan or you might think, but you have to acknowledge and sometimes leave it in the almighty hands that guide you then.
Yep.
And you're talking about how this year 2020 turned out.
Right, and because so I end up getting my certification in mentorship, and it has been a tremendous journey. I have since gone on to certify myself as a family and parent coach. And while John Maxwell speaks into leadership, and I embark on that journey to improve how I was leading my family, how I was leading my staff, and how I was leading persons around me. Because I want to make sure that I was adding value. That's really how I see myself. I always say at the end of every season, and carnival that is, at the end of the year, when my wife look at how many persons we were able to help provide for themselves. Let's put it that way. Sometimes people call her that you don't even remember. For years, people will reach out to her because she's on the road with me on a Monday and Tuesday. My wife is on my side while we traverse the roads, the streets for carnival. And people have always been very respectful. They have understood the order. And I mean, I deal with a very diverse group at carnival time on the road.
Yeah.
And at no point have I ever, because we're not made with fear. We're not made with a spirit of fear. So I don't fear persons because I'm a person of reason. Once you could reach out and touch somebody's heart and connect to them through their heart, then you'll be able to have a nice little dialogue, because that's what people want. People sometimes want to be acknowledged. They want to feel as though they're part of something, and they want to know that person's value, their contribution. And for too long, sometimes we disregard people, we dismiss people. We see them as objects. We're very transactional with some people. But that's not what we are called. Or we are called to be in relation. Now, I didn't say go around and stop and talk to everybody and take forever to get to where you're going. But there are some people sometimes you meet, and you have to develop relationships, because we are called to exist in relationship. We're not called to be alone, And when I speak to people who say that I am a self-made businessman, then I know something wrong, because you can't be self-made. Somebody would have played a part in granting you a provision, in opening a door, in starting a conversation for you to become successful. So you're not self-made. We have to cross paths, and we have to focus on relationships. And for too long, we take it for granted. We slight somebody. And, there's a saying, never burn the bridges. You never know you'll have to cross back. And I think we are all at times could look back at some time in our life when we have really burnt a bridge and because of ego, because of pride, because we felt as though we were wrong and we needed to be right, we never even humbled or apologized. And sometimes people sitting there waiting just for apology. Yeah, all they want for you is just acknowledge that you may have wronged them, or just to appreciate or even empathize or sit in their shoes to understand how you made them feel. Because, there's a saying, people will not forget. You will never forget what you do. You'll always remember how you made them feel. It's how you make somebody feel. Yeah. You could do them all kind of thing, Arion. It's how you make that person feel and forever stay. So if you make somebody feel good, and you make somebody feel enlarged, and you lift them, and you encourage them so they know that there is hope. Because within that all, we are all struggling on our part, people trying to find self. A lot of us are very physical, not realizing that there's an intellectual capacity, and there's a spiritual capacity, and there's the physical. And a lot of us operate in the physical, and we're trying to fix ourselves, but we're fixing outside. But we have to do the work inside. The longest journey in this life is inside. It's from inside. It's not outside. Yeah. And people measure success based on what they believe it looks like. But really and truly, and it's a very physical and outer world.
That's right.
But you have to basically, find yourself, try to get to know yourself and understand self. Because once you can understand self, and you can analyze and realize that some things are not working, I have control and I have power to change some things one step at a time, but you have to be intentional. And I say one step at a time because that's the other thing. Nothing happens by wishing. So, people sit down or 2 years later, they still complain about the same situation. And I would ask, what have you done? What actionable steps have you taken to change that situation from 2 years ago? And they get quiet because obviously they have done nothing. So we talk about wanting change, but we don't really want to be changed. We don't want to experience change because it requires some discipline, which we struggle with.
That's it. I think we always can acknowledge at some point where we have some work to do. It has something better for us, be it internally as you said, or externally. But the work sometimes that you need to put in, and then sometimes the faith that you might be able to speak more on, the faith that you would have to have as well, because sometimes you're doing, but you can't see nothing happening, Jason. It's like, oh God.
Well, it's about timing, but to touch on what you said, you see, the greatest gap in life is between what we know and what we do. Because we know what we should do, but we don't do it. so that's the greatest gap. And as soon as people can recognize that gap and understand that you're in a position to close the gap, we know you need to stop smoke, but you're buying cigarette every day. You're not helping your situation. You have to stop drinking, but your house full of alcohol. You're not that strong, so why put yourself in that position? So that's why I say the greatest gap is between what we know and what we do. And as soon as you recognize and understand the power of that gap, we have the ability to close the gap. We cannot do it alone based on what we're struggling with. For persons who are struggling with addiction, it's not a walk that you could do alone. You need support. You need a community. And that's why I say you have to surround yourself with people that breathe in life and add in value into your situation. You can't be around persons who steady negative, who steady trying to kill your dream. Because at the end of the day, people say there's your friend, and the people say, that's my real friend. But I was sharing with a friend of mine yesterday. Some of our friends are not happy when our life is changing a direction. You understand? They're happy because all of us are the same level. We're all in the same struggle together.
Yeah.
But the moment that you appear to have taken a different path, or life appears to be opening up differently because of your change of belief, because of your spirituality, and they start to do some examination, person start to fall off along the way, and that's fine, because everybody will end with you along the way. Who you start with is not who you're gonna end with. And people have to understand sometimes that while you long for friendship and ride or die, if they're not adding value, and if they're not lifting you, and they're not giving you encouragement and hope, because sometimes what you want is a friend to give you hope, to believe in you. Remember, you cannot be successful unless you believe in yourself. Everybody could believe in you, but if you, Arion, do not believe in yourself, then you cannot be successful.
Very true.
That's just how it is. So what you want is friends to give you hope, somebody to really be like a cheerleader, to hold you accountable and to keep you back on check. Yeah. But you have to be strong in your moral. You have to have integrity, because right now the way society and the world is, if you're trying to walk or hold a particular position, you're taboo, and they watch at you like, what's going on with you?
That's true. I wanna Jason, that's beautiful, man. That I feel like we could say, all right, thanks, that's it, thanks so much. That's quality. But I want to now touch a bit on your parenting, as a parenting mentor. You now being qualified through the John Maxwell program, right? And being able to share. And you as well, having so much experience in terms of family, being married for 19 plus years, having 5 boys. So you in yourself would have had, I'm sure, a wealth of experience to draw from. But how has this new turnaround for you then, this new path you're walking, influenced or impacted on you yourself, and then extension moving out to others?
Right. So, you live what you know, you do what you see. Parents would normally, we would, I guess, how our parents raise us, we take some things that we will follow. Mm-hmm. But we're in an age where there are some literature and there's some learnings and teachings as to how to do better, how to make better decisions. People would prior people come to me and ask me, how you have 5 boys, how do you all do this? How do you all do this? I said, well, I am a very firm believer in discipline. I am one that really, really looks forward to being organized, because there's order. There's a need for order. Once there's order, things usually flow. And while on this journey, it opened my eyes as to some of the very simple things that we took for granted. And I will share a few here on this call with you. For example, families will usually have a vision for themselves. Businesses have a vision. And you go to your workplace and you see the vision, the mission, and statement, but families don't usually set a vision or mission for themselves.
It's true.
You don't have a vision for the children. You don't ask the children to contribute to the vision or to what is happening. We as parents fail to realize that we are raising adults. We're not raising children. They are babies, but we are raising adults. And therefore, we need to treat the young, especially as they start to hit the teen, as young adults. They have a view, they have a voice, and we have to respect them. We have to respect their position and how they see things, because sometimes we believe that we know best, but we haven't sat down to understand what is happening in the child's life. That is why you see children struggling in school, because the parents are not in touch. Yes, you're home with your child. Yes, you are present. You're going down in the car. You're dropping them in the car. But you have not really sat down to understand what is in their world, how their world looks like. You as a parent look down at them and say, okay, when I was your age and when I was, right. And we always reference once upon a time. That's a long time ago. Times has changed. And we need to equip children. We need to equip our children to be able to face and deal with what is ahead. Because life is rough. There are some things, life will knock you down if you don't prepare them. You can't say, well, he'll figure it out on his own because I did. Mm-hmm. So I decided to invest in some literature and a program that allow me to now empower persons, to really help them to get some day-to-day skill set that is not taught in the school curriculum. And some of our parents, because we have not been exposed to it, then we don't know better. Mm-hmm. So, for example, one of the things that I do that I would encourage any parent who is watching this to do is you have to have one-on-one time with your children. And one-on-one time so they can tell you all that's going on in their life. Not for you to necessarily tell them what they're not doing right. We need to encourage them. We need to affirm them. They must understand that there are consequences for their actions. Mm-hmm. And consequence doesn't always have to be links, because we live in a day of technology. So once you take away a device, you have committed the cardinal sin as a parent. But they have to understand that this is something that, from time to time, based on your action, there's a consequence. So I have 5 boys. One for me is a 2.5-year-old, so I'm lucky. I do have 5 days of the week. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have one-on-one uncut times. Uncut. I mean, just the other night, just this week, just last Tuesday, my second son and I went till 1 in the morning. Our time to start talking is 7:30 every night. We finish 1.
Wow.
And it has, and I don't limit it. I put on everything else, and it's just tell me what's going on in your world. Let me understand where you are, how you see life. Let me give a different perspective. Let me help add a perspective as to what you're thinking. Because he is 17 going to 18. Right. So he's at that point where he's settling and trying to navigate life. Right. My eldest son will be 21. He just completed his bachelor's. He's working. So what is next for you? Where we want to go? And so you have an hour with your father. Because what I recognize too is that we make time for what is important. As parents or as adults, we make time for what is important. Carnival time, people in parties, people leaving their children home alone to go to a party because a party important to them. Mm-hmm. But they didn't ask to come here. They look for us as the first example. They spend more time with us than any other group of people. And then we want to know how come they didn't, how come this happened to them? Who influenced them? You weren't present. You weren't in the moment. You're home, you're cooking, but you're not bringing them in to have a conversation. And children really spell love as T-I-M-E. Not you as adults, we spell love L-O-V-E. Children spell love as T-I-M-E. Mm-hmm. And as an adult, I can look back to the memories, the wonderful memories that my mother created for me. And that is what life is about. When you have children, you have to create experience. That is what will carry them through. They will remember experiences. So when a mother or father is absent in a child's life, you create a void. You create a space that cannot be filled because that was for you to share. That was for you to share a moment. You know, I was talking to one of my staff recently.
Right.
And I was like, you know, she's complaining about the relationship with her son. Son is a full man in the Coast Guard. You know, I said, you know, what that's about? And I said, Mr. Charles was always, we always had struggles. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, what was life like growing up, you know, trying to raise your son? Well, I was always, as a single parent, I was always making money and working 2-3 jobs trying to make ends meet. I said, you ever did anything with him? She said, anything like what? I said, ever took your son for ice cream? No. You ever took your son for a bus ride? No. You ever went to the beach with your son? No.
Oh.
You never went to the beach and you live in Trinidad? You ever went to a river with your son? No. You ever went to Tobago? No. And by the time we were done, I was able to show her, I said, okay, your other child, were your child exposed to these opportunities? Yes, I made a way so my other child was able to do the things my son never did. So he held on to the fact that while my mother didn't do it, I wasn't even given the opportunity to enjoy, whereas my sibling,
right,
an opportunity was created.
Right.
So something as simple as doing something for one and not the other, especially when there's multiple. As a parent, you say, it's no big thing. That's your brother. That's your sister. No big deal. Don't need to worry about it. Yes, it has an impact. Because children remember what they receive. Mm-hmm. So as far as possible, I have always tried to maintain equality. While talking to my second son, he felt at one time I favored, or he was less like. Not that I favored anyone in particular. Mm-hmm. And by the time we were finished, I said, why you felt that way? He said, because Dad, you know, back then, I really got myself in some trouble. I was punished more than the others. And I said, son, you were punished more because you did more things to be punished. you were the one that was really a handful. You were the one that was most challenging. Right. And what I have come to accept, and I'll say that for those of us who are viewing, the devil is a liar. He wants to destroy family life and he wants to stop those from going into our giftedness. Once a gift has been placed or a calling has been placed on a child, a lot of times that child wrestles the most, and it's the most restless child. Mm-hmm. And it's the most restless child because they have some things to crack to go to the next place. But there's that steady fight. And if you're not really in tune with your children, or you're not in tune with your child, you always do that. There are 3 things we do as parents: compare, complain, and criticize. They always do a comparison. Once there's another child, there's a comparison.
Why you not like so?
Complain, compare, and criticize. Mm. And I want to encourage parents to stop that after today. After watching this video, stop comparing, stop complaining, and stop criticizing your children. Because when you criticize, you speak negative into their lives. Mm-hmm. The power of the tongue has life and death. So you have to be mindful of what you speak. You can't allow persons, and in our home area, nobody can come and speak into my children's life. As the father, I am the provider. I am here to nurture. I am here to protect my family. No sibling, no in-law, nobody cannot speak into my children being on negative things. We don't tolerate that. If you have nothing good, you then say nothing. And if it is, sometimes you have to separate yourself. You know, once you identify the energies, you have to give yourself space. And people struggle to do that, you know, because it's more family. But sometimes your family, they may not be the best thing for you based on where you want to go. Yeah, because they could crash your dreams. Yes. Your family wants to crash your dreams. Yes. Sometimes in a circle of friends, they want to discourage you. As opposed to sit back and say, boy, why don't we together try to figure out how to help you go to the next level? Because you want to be happy that somebody could go to the next level.
That's right. And in all fairness to them at times, it could be their concern and probably love for you, which may have them reflect a negative point of view where you might be, you know, interested in doing a venture or whatever. You know, it might just be fear or concern, you know.
And understandably so with fear. But again, I would say we were not created with a spirit of fear. And people are usually fearful of the unknown. But right. As parents, we have to see what our children are saying. We have to see what their passion, where their passion lies. We have to see what they're excited about, and we have to try to nurture it. I mean, there are a lot of children here now, a lot of adults who went on to do a profession or had a first degree that their parents wanted, and they have now gone on to do the degree that they wanted for themselves, because you were led to believe you had to be a lawyer, had to be a doctor, had to be a dentist. You have to do certain things because that is for your family and parents to be able to have a conversation and speak about. But they never really asked what you wanted for yourself. Mm-hmm. So you have this generation now who of a different mindset. And I like the fact that we have, as parents, we are open to change. And we are creating a platform where persons could really reach out and share where they want to go. And while we are cautious and we want to guide, and that's what we are here to do, to guide, we are not here to instruct or dictate.
Agreed.
So I create a platform. My home environment is one where you speak kind words. We don't have no fighting, you have no quarreling, because what good is that? We are one unit. We're in the battle zone. And our child's family is one unit, one of the battalion in the battle zone. So you can't have infighting. Because if you have infighting, then you can't be strong enough to face what out there. The fight is outside, the fight is not inside. and parents have to raise their strength to understand that the fight is outside. So you strengthen your children from the inside. But to strengthen them, you too have to have inside. You cannot give and you cannot pour and share what you don't have. So parents have to now, kind of revisit how they do things. They have to be very intentional in preparing children for the workplace and with their financial situation. We don't teach our children money, neither does the school system.
That's right.
So I embarked on this parenting journey so I can help parents understand there's some things that you need to do. You have to have a vision for the family. You must have some standards that the family will accept, standards that each individual will set for themselves. Because at the end of the day, one of the downfalls we have is that we have young ladies and young people, but I'll speak to the ladies, settling in relationships, and it's not really where they want. And sometimes the parents say, but I didn't raise you that way. How come this is where you are? How come you are settled in? And that's because they hadn't set a standard. You have to hold a standard. As you get older, you revisit your standard. Because the standard for an 8-year-old won't be the same for a 15-year-old or 20-year-old as you get older. So as parents, we have to sit with family and have family discussions. You have to have those discussions. Even if it's once a quarter, you have a family meeting to understand what is affecting who in the house. Because with my 2.5-year-old, it sometimes affects the older boys. So in spend our one-on-one moments, you get to understand, a couple of things that are affecting them, and what they need help with, because everybody still has straws in my house here. Once, that is part of life. Once you have to, this is teaching you to be responsible. This is teaching you to prepare to go out to embrace and be somebody's husband. We have bathroom chores, we have dishes, it rotates, everybody gets involved. On a weekend, on a Saturday, as the father, I pull the first broom and we start. Everybody take a section of the house and we go down the road. And I mop. I tell them, don't worry, your father will mop the whole house. You all sweep and polish, I mop. So they see me involved.
Right.
You see the mother in the kitchen, they go and help their mom in the kitchen.
Right.
Not because it's boy children, but at the end of the day, I don't want anybody to necessarily be not able to stand on their own. So you really have to impart some of the principles and foundations and values that your children are able to accept and grow with.
Beautiful. Jason, I'm watching time, and man, I feeling like I could sit down with you for the whole day, like a Sunday night when you sit down from 7:30 to 1 in the morning. But I want to find out from I'm throwing out my usual questions coming to the end of the interview. And the 2020 Jason Charles speaking to the 15-year-old Jason Charles, who can now counsel this young man coming up in life, who having his own inner toils and things he going through. What would some of the advice you would share to him be, now that you have lived and maneuvered through this journey?
What I want persons to understand is that all that you need to be successful and to be happy is inside of you. We spend too many times chasing things, and I say things meaning material things. We are too consumed with that belief of that social media, that vanity lifestyle. Um, our strengths, our ideas are in us. I'm not sure why young people sometimes, and I say, lack the resilience. I was saying that the other day. Resilience is something that if it doesn't work out or you're discouraged, you get up and you go again. I mean, sometimes at the very first attempt, persons give up.
Yes.
But you have to have a plan. So I will say to any young person, you must have a vision for your life. You must have a plan where you want to be in 3 years' time, in 4 years' time, in 2 years' time. You then have to decide what are your actionable steps you're going to take to get you to the next level. So someone who wants to be a mechanic, right? He say he wants to have his garage and he wants to be a mechanic in 4 years' time or next 2 years. But right now, you are working, for example, in a bank. Mm-hmm. You are not volunteering your free time in a garage because everybody believes everything is money. One of the ways to gain knowledge, people, is to volunteer. Make yourself available. Do it for free. You are trying to develop a skill that you don't have. You want access to a skill that you will need so you can help you get to your next level. Mm. You are trying to satisfy your vision, so volunteer your time. Go and ask and volunteer for a couple hours. Tell them I don't want no money. I just want to see how you do things. And that way you acquire the skill. Once you want to always be paid, you're an apprentice. You're not going to be paid. Those internships don't always work anymore. So I encourage young people to, based on your vision, what you want to do, make yourself a volunteer. Volunteering is one of the ways that doors open because you get to network with different people. You have Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross. You have plenty NGOs, volunteer. So you can go out there because in these volunteer groups are usually persons who can open a door for you, who can create a space for you. So I would want to encourage persons to volunteer, have a vision, and there are some areas I would want persons to focus on as you have your vision and you create an intentional growth plan. And one of the key areas is relationship. You have to be constantly working on nurturing relationships. Relationships, likewise, it don't grow on its own. It requires some effort. It requires some being present. It requires checking on people. If somebody wrong you apologize, you forgive them. If you think you have done somebody wrong, then you be mature enough and you reach out and you apologize because you value people. So you have to focus on area relationship. In terms of your finances, you have to have a vision, a goal for yourself and how you're going to acquire the finances you set out to. Your goals must be realistic. Do not set an overambitious goal. And if you don't succeed, don't be discouraged because ideally, we believe the objective of a goal is to achieve it. But Arion, the objective of a goal is to stretch us. It's not necessarily for us to achieve it, you know. Right. So I want to clear up this today. The objective of goal setting, achieving it is a plus. Mm-hmm. So that is why ideally in goal setting, they tell you set a goal that requires you to stretch, not one that you could reach. Don't tell me you'll put on 10 pounds in 3 months' time, you could do that. Don't tell me you will lose 20 pounds in 3 months' time for carnival, you could do that. Mm-hmm. Why don't you set a goal to maintain a healthy lifestyle? Mm-hmm. Why don't you set a goal to exercise daily, to eat right, to treat your body right, for example? And having said that, so we talk about relationships, we talk about finances, we talk about health, because you must have a vision and plan for your health. You must have a vision and plan for your spirituality. And what I will encourage young people is the decision you make today will impact your tomorrow. So I will say to you, and I will explain briefly, that the most important day in your life is today. It will always be today. Do not have control of our tomorrows. Yes, today is gone. Today is a gift. The compound effect of our actions today impacts our tomorrow. Every other day is today. It's never tomorrow. So when tomorrow comes for the young man in his mind, tomorrow is now today. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very careful of the choices we make today because they impact our tomorrow. If you start to save now, 10 years later, if you save in $100 a month, $1,200 a month, 10 years later it's $12,000, for example. But if you're spending every single cent every month, 10 years later, you have no money still. If you fail to exercise daily and eat right and stretch your bones, and you continue to be gluttonous and eat and sit on the sofa and bucket of ice cream and put on weight, a couple of years will be tomorrow where you're overweight. You have joint pain, you have back problem, you have diabetes, because the decision you made then, which was today, has now multiplied into tomorrows. Remember, days are given in our life is given in days, not weeks and months. So while we plan for next year and 5 years' time, we've got to start operating one day at a time, and that is today. In mathematics, there's only 100%. So if you shortchange today, children, folks, you can't make it up tomorrow. You can't give 110% tomorrow. You could only give 100% per day. So sometimes in the workplace, somebody say, I ain't feeling 100 today, you'll get 110 tomorrow. Give my kind. There's no 110. It will only be 100. Yeah, so don't
only 100.
So that's why I say, at the end of the day, you have to be intentional and you have to be mindful of the choices. The choices we make today will impact our tomorrows.
Brilliant. So, Jason, last bits. And you kind of pretty much highlighted, you cover up a lot of bases there, because what I have, the last thing I normally pitch out to my guest would be what I call the playbook, right? And the playbook would be literal, deliberate steps to achieve your definition of success, right? So I know you identified some, key points of how you should operate. But if you were to consolidate this now into playbook, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. According to how you see it,
right?
How would that playbook be?
Step one definitely is have a vision. That's a given. You must have a written vision, not a mental vision. You must have something that you get up to and look towards every day. On the dressing table in the bathroom, something that gives you that energy, something to get up and go to.
Right.
After vision, you must have a step process. As you say, the playbook, you must have actionable steps. What can you do to help you achieve and develop and grow in areas? Because you can only grow in 2 areas. So let me get the playbook. You can only grow in a skill or a choice.
A skill or a choice.
You can't go in anything else. Choice is attitude. Attitude is a choice. Okay. So if you have a bad attitude, you have the power to change the way you see and treat and feel people. But your attitude is a direct result of your self-esteem. You cannot rise above how you see yourself. And if you're growing in a skill, if you are IT personnel or you are technician or you're plumber or you're tradesman, then you harness and sharpen your skill, but you can't go no other way. It's either a choice or a skill.
Papa. Nice.
So then you have to identify where you want to grow and what areas you want to work in. But you have to look at self. You really have to examine yourself. You have to examine the choices and the situations that are happening. And again, under the umbrella of, and I would say relationship, because it's important, you must have categories. While you say it's broad, but it's really narrowing to help you look at it. You have to focus on your relationship. You have to focus on your spirituality, on your finances and your health. For example, these are areas that will help you realign your purpose, your vision, or help you change what you want to improve on. Because once you look at an area that you want to improve on, then you work towards. Or if you identify an area that you want to grow, then you start to sharpen your skills in that particular field and area. So I would tell people, have a vision, identify what area, you seem to be lacking. And in that area, how can you identify a game plan, how you can now improve? Because the internet has lots of information. Yep. There's lots of learning. There's lots of free content. Do you want to invest in yourself? And if you want to invest in yourself, how much are you willing to invest? Because a person who stops learning stops growing. And if you stop growing, then you can't add value to those around you. Because life is about growing. You have to continuously be at a different stage as you get older. And I encourage persons to really have a relationship with your God. Whichever one you serve, you need to really have a relationship and ask for guidance, because it is there. All that you need is inside of you. You just have to surround yourself with people of influence. You have to find a mentor. Find somebody who you could look up to, positive influence, and I emphasize positive because we do have negative influences. Yeah. And you affiliate and surround yourself with that. Don't be afraid to be different. we all look the same, but we are made different. We're all in the same race, but we run at a different speed. You know, you look across, and that's why I said earlier, do not compare, because anytime you look to the other lane, you feel as though that person is ahead of you. But you don't know that, because nothing happens before it's time. But you have to be patient, and you have to understand what is this period of stall, because no waiting season is a wasted season. Anytime things are not happening, Arion, is because it's either he's protecting you, or you're not ready to receive it, or another opportunity presents itself. So while I'm here, I will develop a relationship and I will mend some bridges, because along the way we've all the persons. And we could start today. Why not start to forgive somebody or ask for forgiveness? Because it's an area that we all will always be. It's an area that always requires. Beautiful. So I really want folks to have a vision, identify where you want to go, and know that you can achieve it. Because if you spell the word, we usually say I can't. But I told my 8-year-old, and I tell my 13-year-old, if you drop T from can't, you can. So never say you can't, because you wouldn't know what is possible. You wouldn't know what is impossible until you know what is possible. And unless you try, you wouldn't know what is ahead of you. But you can't just be operating women fans. You have to take charge of life. You have to take charge of the day. You have to have a plan. You have to have a to-do list. You have to have things that you tick off and you go back to and ensure that you close. But you can't wake up and say, okay, whatever the day brings. You just drift, and you can't drift. You have to be deliberate and purposeful as to what you're going to achieve and how you're going to achieve it and what you're going to let stand in your way. Because obstacles are what we allow. Similarly, we allow persons into our space. We have the right to choose and to reject. So we have to reject negative thinking. We have to reject persons that are not going to add value and align ourselves with those that can help us in the direction we want to go. As the playbook.
That's it.
It's about your thinking, the greatest asset we have is our minds. People spend millions of dollars, businesses spend millions of dollars to protect a physical building. And every time I ask people, if you have one thing you could safeguard with all your life, what would it be? And it's always their money, their house, their property. But youths, I encourage you to safeguard your mind. Change your thinking and change your direction.
Brilliant. Jason Charles, man, my brother, I really, really appreciate you sharing with us this morning, sharing with us here. And, coming from your past to your present, and I really, 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 really love that story you told on you going on to your course and just choosing to action it and everything starting to fall into place. That was powerful. As I said, that just raised my pause. So there you have it, folks. Sometimes the journey is you just have to work within yourself and make sure and connect to that higher force to guide you. A lot of times, because we have plans and we necessarily may not know how things are going to work out, but as Jason advised, connect, have your vision, have your plan, and go with faith.
And work the plan, but you have to be committed, folks.
100%.
Commitment and discipline, two key ingredients, young people. Commitment and discipline. You have to be disciplined. You have to discipline yourself, and you have to commit to following through.
There you go.
You have to commit to your vision.
There you go. Oh, Jason was lovely, man. I really, really appreciate your time. Send my love to Stacey and the family, and we are connected again.
Of course. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. All the best.
You too. Take care.